Well, I think we'll stay in the upper Midwest to segue into the next segment. So, Keegan and Mike, you've only done this once before. We finish up this show with the segments called Behind the Keyboard. What differentiates us from your normal idiots sitting in front of their computers talking about sports, although we are that, is also that we have a modicum of experience from covering sports. We provide some insight, some impressions, some memories that we have. And one thing that popped up for me over the weekend, a couple days ago, was ex Wisconsin ite Craig Counsell, right? He's a Milwaukee. That's Wisconsin, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Nailed
was
it.
asked about the torpedo bats, and I just thought his response was a little unnecessarily. Mm, douchey's probably too strong a word.
Glib.
Um, but it said the gist of his response to the reporters when they asked about him about the torpedo bats was like, "Yeah, people have been using these for a long time. I'm surprised it took you guys so long to notice." Just kind of saying, you stupid baseball media, uh, couldn't notice this before. The reason it kind of annoyed me is that um, the baseball media that he's talking about includes a lot of former players. So there's like a lot of people who call games who supposedly, if this thing was really as pervasive as he said it was, like it wasn't just the ink stained wretches and the the dirty quarter zips and the khakis. It was also the former all stars and non all stars of the world who also missed it, so to speak, which they didn't. I also remember a few people pointing out that um, Stanton used one last season in the playoffs. Um, but that kind of did set the tone. I'm sure in the past, you guys have heard that when you've been in scrums of athletes or coaches or whoever referring to you guys. If you're ever on social media, people give you all sorts of grief over sports media or um, you guys are doing this or that. So I was curious, is there anything in particular about that idea of like the sports media that grinds your gears, that annoys you to the point that you have ever wanted to come back and say that's not a that's not a fair encapsulation of what we do here.
I the one that I immediately thought of, and it's a similar example of the council thing. Draymond Green went on a his own podcast and argued that the media is the reason why he has the reputation he has, but it was on his own podcast, which I think is just an issue of him not knowing what the definition of the word media,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the fact that he has two of those shows and he also does TNT pre and post game work when his team gets eliminated from the playoffs. Like, you are the media. So if you have an issue with specific people, just say it. Or if you have an issue with a certain subsect of the media, like I think a lot of these guys don't like the people who show up and ask them questions because it's in some respects it's holding them accountable, and others it can be annoying. Like I fully understand that if I went 0 for 4 and I had some idiot like me asking me like how come you can't pick up the fastball, Rafael Devers, I'd want to punch him in the face. So I get it. But the use of the word media as an all-encompassing, like, just the people I don't like, really, it grinds my gears. And specifically when it's a guy who has spent the last 5 years, setting himself up to be a member of the media when he's done playing, even though he already is one. It's just, I think he stinks and people like him stink.
It does stink. This was a tough one. I didn't have a great like specific example, but I it was kind of striking, and this is interesting timing. Is yesterday or earlier this week, whenever it was, Colin Morikawa was had his Masters press conference, and so he got a little bent out of shape a few weeks ago because he choked it away. I think it was at Bay Hill, and somebody asked him, they asked him about it, or he skipped media. And then they asked him about it a week later. I think that's the course of it thing. And he said they're like, "Well, why didn't you talk after Bay Hill?" And he's like, or whenever it was, he's, I don't owe you guys anything." I was like, All right, cool.
Didn't he
So
say I don't need you guys? Wasn't that one of the things?
no, I think he said I don't owe you anything.
Oh,
I
okay.
is some iteration of that. But so Chris Powers, who I think works for Golf Digest or Golf.com, one of the two, he's down in Augusta and he was asking everybody about it yesterday. And credit to him, he asked Morikawa about it. He's like, "Do you think it's kind of unfair that, or do you guys have a reputation as being a little bit soft, at least compared to other golfers?" And Morikawa was like, "Well, first of all, I don't, that's an interesting way to ask the question." And it's like, oh God, he's already in full bitch mode, and so he went on and just kind of spun his wheels verbally for a little bit. And basically, the gist of what he said was like, you guys aren't here when I shoot 67 on like a Friday at, you know, Valspar or whatever. And it's like, yeah, man, like, not a, it's, I guess like the way to answer it is like the misunderstanding of like what the media's role is or what the media should be doing on a consistent basis, or like it's like, no man, like when you play poorly in a big spot, like that is far more, you know engaging and attractive to people who are going to consume content, and therefore people are going to create content about it. It's not super complicated, and like if you have a problem with that, that's just the way it is in this industry. And like, you maybe hate the fact that like the media is part of your industry, but it is, at least until we're replaced by robots and everybody has a PR firm that just does, that's where they go through. So like him being like, I guess the big thing is like, if you're gonna say, if you want to talk to me when I play poorly, you've got to talk to me when I play well. It's just misguided and I think flat out wrong. I'm guessing he does a ton of media when he plays well too. Like when he wins, if you win a tournament, you do a press conference. Like that's so just I think that kind of stems from like, you guys are out to get me type of stuff, and that's always a big annoyance of mine too. I think there are people who are out to get him, but I think there's also just as many people, if not more, who want to just understand what it's like to perform or not perform in a high stakes situation. Like, I am a guy in my basement who plays golf 6 times a year. Like, I'll never understand what it's like to hit a ball in the water at 16 at Augusta. Like, you are good, so I would like you to tell me what that's like, even if it's uncomfortable for you. And that's gonna have, I think that probably leads to more fans too. So, just I don't want to lecture guys on like fundamentally misunderstanding the media's role in promoting professional sports, but I think there is some of that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there is more and more requirement of accountability for fame now than there has ever been, and it's not just for athletes. There's just way less of an expectation that by dint of you being famous, having a voice, being out there with a public image, that there's needs to be any sort of trade off for you. And for an athlete, really the only way that we've found that they become held accountable is as a schmo. If you're at the game, you can boo them. That's why I'm always pro boo. People are like, oh, I'm like, because if you paid a ticket for a ticket to a game, you have no other like recourse. There's nothing else you can do. So like, you bought your ticket, you have the right to boo. So that's one. And then the other one is just answering a question. And when it comes right down to it, when you get paid a lot of money to play a game, if those are kind of two of the trade-offs, I don't think those are the worst trade-offs in the world. Because yeah, there's other things you're expected to do. You're expected to stay in shape, go to practice, all that kind of stuff. But we've seen Ben Simmons, Bradley Beal, a whole bunch of other guys that like the contract and the team and is not always enough to hold one accountable. And you can mute your Twitter. You can block people on Instagram, so you don't necessarily need to hear from the public if you don't want to. The only two ways that people can even do that anymore is you can boo if you're a fan, and if you're a reporter, you can ask a question. And if you don't want to do that, well, you didn't have to sign that big contract to play whatever sport.
I think like the discussion of money is something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, and like understandably so. But I think athletes take advantage of that a little bit, because like if I'm having a discussion with an athlete, we're never going to talk about the differences in our salaries. But I should be able to ask you a question that I think is going to gain traction and do well for whatever outlet I'm working for. Because if I'm talking to an NBA basketball player, you just made 8 times my salary by playing in this one game. So answer
I
the freaking question,
I
man. Like,
think if I were them though, like that's why I wouldn't answer the question. I'd be like,
that's
you know what I mean? I made my money. I don't give a shit if you know what I mean. Like
but that's
that's
the
like
trade-off.
yeah,
Like
but like
with the
he doesn't
promotion of a
care. It's
league.
in his bank account. Like
No,
he's
I
not
understand
making
that. I'm just
money.
saying,
Like that's the
that's why
thing. Like if these guys realize that they don't ever have to do this, that could be a tough situation because like guys who are professional athletes right now aren't gonna lose their jobs because they don't answer these questions. So it's actually a miracle they answer them sometimes.
I
But I
think
think
that's why
that's what you're getting. But what you're kind of getting to what I was saying is
yeah,
the attitude now that we don't need to do this. I
yeah.
think is an unfortunate attitude, and it's
yeah, I just don't think
honestly it's pervasive in all of society.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah,
where we
right.
are in a lot of places. Like there's just and the irony is though that now the folks like general public sides much more with that person who has
Yeah.
the fame because they associate with that person. They want to be that person. They see that person. They think that they're friends with that person.
Well, they also want that person to do well for the thing that they like, and it's like, how dare you get in the way of that, however small it might be. Like, I just love the idea that like 3 minutes with Keegan is gonna, you know, send the Patriots spiraling out of control.
I my kind of the point of that was there's a trade-off here, and it's my story. Like I understand it. It's not getting any more eyes on the NFL. The NFL, they're gonna get the viewership they get, but when television networks are paying whatever they're paying
Yeah.
for the contracts that go into these guys' salaries, it's a cycle. It all comes back to the promotion of the league, which this is a part of. So I'm sorry you dropped a game-winning touchdown. Just answer the question, because tomorrow you're gonna wake up and you're gonna feel all right, and I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be like, damn, I gotta pay my rent in 3 days. Let me, you know what it is. Like it's just I don't expect them to care about the money aspect of it, but when it comes down to it, there's a trade-off for this is what your job is, this is what my job is. I can respect your job and the way you get paid and all that. All I ask is that you respect mine. And if you can, I think that just makes you an asshole. Like not being able to understand that I'm also doing my job here, you're being a dick. So if you want to be a dick about it, that's fine. But, you should be able to be called out for that.
Yeah, it's like service industry, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was
You're an
just about
asshole
to
to
make
it.
that. I was just about to make that connection. It's like
Yeah.
there's nothing that says that I shouldn't just dump my Coke on the floor at a
Right.
McDonald's, but because the janitor's gonna clean it up, but maybe just don't do that anyway. So yeah, I just compared our job to being a janitor at McDonald's. So
I mean, I've thought about it.
Well, Christina's making $2.25 an hour, so I'm gonna leave her a tip so she can eat something tonight. And there's just an understanding there. Like, I there I have no relationship with this person, but I'm gonna be decent. I don't think that's a hard ask.
janitorial work, in hindsight, especially like a public school janitor, that wouldn't have been the worst move in the world.
I I know a couple. They have far less stressful lives
Are they
than
happy?
I do at least, and I don't even have an important job. So
If I have kids and I'm not in a better place than I am now, I might just go be a custodian at a college, and now their college is taken care of. I don't have to worry about paying for it.
You'll start doing math problems on the walls, and then
yeah, I
Yeah,
was
a
gonna
little Will
say,
Hunting action. Move to California with my new lady. Yeah,
better not see you here next week, Keegan.
the
All
best
right.
part of my day.
All right, folks. You've spent another hour with the NPC Sports Podcast. Mike and Keegan, I really appreciate you guys pinch hitting this week. Hopefully, we'll have you back on. Definitely, we'll have you back on at some point, especially once your separation from your current, not your separation from each other. You guys are not partnered up.
There was
yet.
never a union, so it's fine.
But once your guys' separation from your current home organization is complete. We should definitely have like a mega cast or something of some.
As long as, I mean, if Keegan get time off from the middle school down the street, I mean,
They're
We'd have
pretty
to-
tough with it, but
might
I'll
have to
I'll
do
figure
it
it out.
during April vacation or something, or at least during the summer. So when Keegan takes time between, mopping the gym floor and repainting the swing set, we can.
I need something to do while I'm buffing the floors, so I'll just throw the
Good
earphones in
point.
and
That's a good-
we'll talk.
Sweet. All right. For Mike, for Keegan, I've been Ben. Thanks a lot.